Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I am your host, Greg Fowler. This show essentially is traveling around our marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our fields, from realtors to lenders to builders, developers, residential or commercial, gathering their insight, what inspires them, what motivates them, and takes them to the highest levels in their field, and what I like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest today and a real estate titan is Rick Ward. Rick, thanks so much for stopping by the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we're just going to kind of jump into all these questions that we're going to go through and giving insight into who Rick is and what you're about and what really drives you and what separates you from everybody else. So we're going to jump right in now and go into it. So Rick, I guess tell everybody out there a little bit about you. Introduce yourself, I guess.
Okay. So I'm Rick Ward. I actually have been in Colorado Springs since 1991. I got stationed at Fort Carson. And I came from overseas, and when I remember driving into Colorado Springs on Highway 24, and I grew up on the East Coast, D.C., right, Virginia area, and, you know.
Shout out to D.C.
My Redskins. Anyways, and but there's not a whole lot, of topography out there. And I just remember driving in on Highway 24, and Pikes Peak just got bigger and bigger and bigger as you got closer. And I have never grown or take that for granted. It's just a sight that I love seeing every day. So,
beautiful.
But yeah, 1991. So I've been here quite a while.
Okay.
And I'm married. My wife Renee is a saint, and so she's stuck it out with this crazy kook here for 25 years this year.
That's awesome.
And,
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And and I have two kids. My daughter Alexa and my son Jacob. And Alexa's in the business with me now.
Yes, shout out to Alexa.
That's right. She's an up-and-comer. Watch her. And she's going to carry on the brand and the legacy that we're trying to build here for many years to come. So,
wonderful.
Yeah. And, so that's it. Really, I was in the Army, and when I got out of the Army, I've been in sales ever since, and, transitioned to the mortgage business about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Which was a lot there, Rick, and that's really cool to see the progression, and you've been here in this marketplace and understanding, coming from a sales background, but also military. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that, your military background, with everybody out there?
Yeah. So I don't know about why most people enlist. I mean, everybody's got their own reasons, but I needed to enlist.
Okay.
I needed to get out of an area that and just start a chapter in my life where I was actually serving and doing something that I felt like was important. And so I enlisted, right?
Wow.
And it's funny, my enlistment date is February 14th, so every Valentine's Day I remember my first true love was Uncle Sam.
That's
but
great.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
Yeah. And then I spent most of my time overseas. I was in from about 86 to 93, so during the Cold War stuff. And, So anyway, I was there when the wall came down in Germany.
Wow.
So that was pretty impressive and quite an experience, one of those magical moments in life, right, that you never forget.
Truly.
Then I came back stateside, and like I said, I got here in 91. And I got out of service in 93. So I did almost 8 years. So,
okay. And the rest is history.
Rest is history. That's right. Yeah.
So a little bit more about you, Rick. Really, what's your why? What motivates you and to get you to the level that you're at with your business and production? What is your driving force?
Yeah, so I think when you think about what's your why, some people try to get these big fancy answers, right? And I'm not happy for them. That's great. That's just not who I am, right? But and there's nothing wrong with that. We are who we are.
Sure.
But what I have learned is your why changes over time.
That's a really good point.
Absolutely. So earlier in my career, I was very motivated about the stack rank and where I stood with my competition. So it really drove me I wanted to be number one, period.
Right.
It's probably because I grew up the skinny underdog kid, right? And and
look at you now.
And look at me now. I'm not skinny at all, right? But that was what drove me initially. And to this day, I'm still very competitive, but there's a lot more to what I do now than just trying to be number one.
Right.
It's more about the clients that we serve. And being a veteran, I'm a veteran advocate. I love helping our military folks, active duty or veterans, get into a home.
That's
right?
big. That's really big.
Yeah, it just that's something that drives me and really motivates me every day to make sure we service them, because there's so many myths out there about, you know, the VA home loan or VA buyers, or and especially in a tight market. And so my job is to bust all those myths out there and make sure we take care of those folks that have taken care of us.
No, and that's great. And to bring up what you've done before, Rick, so you had a great video that was out there. It was like Rocket Mortgage, Schmocket Mortgage.
Something like that.
And I thought that was awesome. So if anybody hasn't seen that, go to Rick's profile page. It's on there. It's super cool. Going to that. So that's great. And that's really telling about your character and what you do, Rick, and why you do it. I think that's very important for people to know. And it's a legacy that you're leaving. It's caring about the military and other professionals, not just being number one or top dog. However, a consistent message that's been across to the top producers worldwide in any industry is striving for excellence and going through. And obviously you're doing that. So that's really, really cool.
Thanks, Greg.
So going into, you know, a different thing, specifically into getting to that level, if you could pinpoint, you know, one or two things that you've done in your career, Rick, to really elevate your brand and what you've done, could you pinpoint one or two of those things that really took your business to the next level?
Yeah, sure. So it didn't really matter which career I was in, right? Okay. Military, then I was in sales, which, by the way, my sales career started, some people say when I met my wife and I talked her into marrying me, but it really started at MCI.
I would agree with that in a certain standpoint, Rick. Right. That's great.
But but any one of those careers, and in the mortgage business, and I was in the software business too, so kind of a progression there. But here's what I learned early on that really helped me in each one of those careers is that you have to sharpen the saw, right?
Love it.
You have to sharpen the saw. You know, iron sharpens iron, right? Or whatever, steel sharp. You know, whatever.
Yeah, one of those.
One of those.
You guys know what he's talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right? And so if you want to be the best at that in that industry or what it is or whatever, you know, career field you're in, I want to learn from the best of the best. So I hired coaches every step along the way. Found the best of the best because I want to learn from somebody who's already where I want to be, right? I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Right. And in the military, I didn't have to pay for it. Well, you kind of paid for it because you didn't get paid. But right. But once I got out of the military in my civilian career, you know, I always had to hire coaches.
Okay.
And it is the best money I have ever spent. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 fold of what you invest, you get out of that. Wow. But the key is this, okay? You have to have the right coach. Right?
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
You have to have the right coach.
You have to, because there's a lot of folks that get into coaching that never really made it to a higher level or to the highest levels. And so you got to be able to sniff that out. And that's not a knock on them. It's just, you know, it's not at all good for them for what they're doing. But if you want to be at the very top echelons, find the best of the best and have those people as your coaches. Does that make sense?
That's great advice for sure. And that's been echoed a few times on the show with taking and elevating your brand and really understanding that you're surrounding yourself with better, smarter people that can elevate you and your brand and push you to new heights. There's no sense in surrounding yourself with people who don't have a proper mindset or aren't really motivating you in a direction or supportive. I mean, you're guilty by association, period, and you want to elevate that every single day.
Absolutely.
So that's huge advice, Rick, for sure, as far as the coach and driving that specifically. So coming on to a different topic, and I think that this is really what showcases the Titans into this field, because when you know, business is going well and life is beautiful, that's great for everybody, and that's easy street. But when stuff hits us hard and there's challenges in our way, how we overcome those is really what separates the top from everybody else. So Rick, could you pick a certain challenge that you dealt with in your life that you overcame that made you stronger, either personally or professionally?
Sure. Well, let me answer it this way.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and this is the craziest thing. Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
And just listen to me here.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Where's he going with this?
They provide some great service, right? Like these are kids that they teach, and their customer service is pretty good, I think, for fast food, right?
For sure.
And they have this little video clip, and I saw this video where they train their folks, where people come in and the employees are kind of there doing their thing, and they see this couple walk in, and it says, "Hey, this couple just found out that the husband has cancer, only has 6 months to live." Right?
Wow.
You know, then you see this other family. Hey, they just found out that you know, or they're getting divorced, whatever. Right? You know, just all these different types of things that happen in life.
Sure.
And the theme of it says everybody has a story, right? And so you have to remember that. So for me personally, yeah, I've had challenges. We all have, right? I mean, anybody who's worth their salt has had challenges in life, right?
Correct.
And so I think that for me personally, I don't share any of that crap because you know what? It's history.
Right.
I don't spend time dwelling or thinking about any of those challenges or things that have happened that maybe didn't go the right way or life experiences that, hit you in the heart, right? It is what it is, right?
Correct.
And you're not unique. Somebody else in this world has had it worse or has gone through something similar. Just you got to embrace it for a moment, and then put it past you. At least that's how I do it.
Love it.
And then I just look forward. Okay, I got to get past this, and I'm not going to spend the time or the energy to dwell on those challenges or the bad things that have happened. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that's a great mindset to have. Not everybody out there has that, and I think that the upper echelon of thinkers and business professionals, they look at it this way. I know this is going to sound like a cheesy adage, but everybody's heard the windshield is so much bigger than the rear view mirror, and I think that you're supposed to be focusing on what's in front of you more so than what's behind you. And I think that's a good takeaway for everybody out there, Rick. Exactly what you just stated.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think it's cheesy, that little
Yeah,
edge. I love it.
I
love
Thanks,
that stuff.
man.
Yeah,
Thanks, man. I get excited about it. Some people might think it's cheesy.
Yeah.
Okay, so going into a lighter topic instead of challenges, let's go into something a little different. So if you could travel back in time, Rick, and give a piece of advice or a few pieces of advice to the younger Rick, what might that be, if any?
Holy cow!
I know that's a question.
Yeah, that's probably a lot of things.
Sure.
Let's pepper some of those, maybe.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Sure.
One, I would have listened to my dad a lot sooner than in life than I did.
Wow.
He's a wise man through his experience. Maybe not in how he verbalized or demonstrated, but by his example. So I should have recognized that earlier. So that's one thing. So that's for you, pops.
Right. Right. Wow.
So yeah,
that's big.
Yeah. Another thing I would say is that. I would take more risk sooner in life.
Okay.
All right. I think I was always kind of a little bit of a risk taker, but not to the level that I wanted to be.
Okay.
Because I wanted to fail. I should have failed sooner at bigger things, right? Earlier on,
Sure.
And realize those were the building blocks to get me where I want to be and where I'm at now, sooner rather than later.
Right.
That's another one.
Okay.
And then the other thing is I would not take myself so stinking serious. Right?
That's great.
Like,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're right. You got to smile. You got to laugh. You got to enjoy things. And I think I always have, but I have been accused sometimes of, man, you're really intense.
Okay.
Right? And I'm like,
yeah.
when in reality is I'm just focused.
Sure.
Right? But that could be misconstrued sometimes, or that perception of you're not enjoying it or having a good time. So, man, don't take things so seriously. Laugh at yourself and laugh at others too. It's okay. They'll get over it.
That's awesome. And that's great advice, Rick. It really is, because and especially the upper echelon of the top producers, they're very focused and they're very tedious, and it might come across as the wrong impression, but they're just passionate about what they do. And again, I think that's a little bit of separation between you and everybody else, which is why I consider you a titan when it comes out to there. So, but that's great advice. I'm sure young Rick would appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how he'd take it, but it's just one of those things
Sure.
that I think that's great. So going into it, what helps motivate you and feeds that fuel to the fire of your mindset, as far as what books are you reading, what maybe podcasts are you listening to, or maybe influencers you're following on social media. What does that look like for you, Rick?
Sure. So I heard this a long time ago, and I didn't always embrace it. But readers are leaders, right?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Learners are earners, right? I think I heard you say
that.
that, which I love.
There's so many professionals that say that. I'm not taking credit for that.
Well, take credit. It's okay.
Yeah, right here.
So, so I love it, right?
Okay.
And so every single day, that's part of my morning ritual. Is that when I work out,
okay,
then I read. Okay.
Wow.
And right now I'm reading Tools of Titans.
Awesome.
So awesome book. But my wife always kids around. She always reads nonfiction.
Oh.
I'm sorry, fiction. I'm
fiction,
the one who always reads the nonfiction.
Okay.
I could care less about this murder mystery or or reading a murder mystery or Harlequin romances. She doesn't read those, but my grandma used to. Right, but
bringing it back.
Right,
bringing it back.
yeah, but forget about all that. Like I like to read the nonfiction stuff just because I'm absorbing it at a fast pace.
Okay.
And sometimes when you read that stuff, eventually, your subconscious mind soaks up that good stuff, right?
Right.
And then you start saying those things, you don't even realize you're saying it, or more importantly, putting those things into action.
Love it.
And so anyway, and I'm a big, I love Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
Love John
Great.
Maxwell,
Awesome.
Jim Rohn. Love those
Wow.
guys. I'm an old school guy.
No, I love that.
I love all those guys. And as far as podcasts go, you guys have got to check out Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink. Okay.
Yeah. He's a retired Navy SEAL, 20 years in the military. Just this guy is top notch. Talk about real world life experience and hitting you right in the gut. And right in between the eyes of what you need to hear, you need to listen to that guy. So I like that guy a lot.
No, that's awesome. And just so everybody knows, I'm going to put link in the description or the comment section, all the books and podcasts that Rick was talking about, so you guys can look that up. I think that's really good content, and I'll echo that. We should always be learning, always be growing. That's huge, Rick, for sure. So last but not least,
All right.
as far as questioning is concerned, to kind of wrap this up, Rick, if you could, kind of express to everybody out there that's tuning into this and people who may or may not know you, what quotes do you live by, or what's your mantra that really speaks to your brand?
Well, that's easy. So I put a lot of thought into that about kind of who we are and wanted to kind of put it into something that made sense for people that didn't know me, especially a lot of clients that we work with.
Sure.
And we always talk about our 4 H's on the Rick Ward lending team. All right. And so the first H is that we're hungry, right? Hungry people go the extra mile and work a little bit harder, right? And they don't
Very
take
true.
contract deadlines as suggestions, right? They actually
I love that.
They kind of realize that those are the real deal, right? And so I think it's obvious that we're hungry with our brand and our team because of the level of production we're at, and that we're still seeking to reach those higher levels.
Okay.
All right. Second is that we're honest. I'm never going to tell you one thing to your face and do something different behind the scenes.
Right.
And also, I think it's pretty important that when I say honest, you tell people how it is. You don't really necessarily need to sugarcoat things. Good or bad, tell them how it is.
Love that.
Right?
Communication.
Yeah, you got to, because sometimes people fear what they don't know more so if you just tell them.
Right.
So we're big on that. The third H is that we're humble. We only tell you how great we are when we first meet you. Right?
I love that. That's great.
And then the rest is in how we take care of clients and how we execute. And then the fourth H is happy.
Okay.
Right? I think it's important that we realize what we talked about earlier. Everybody has a story, and you have to realize that nothing's more important to them than their story. And so when they interact with us, we want to try to make sure that we listen to them and empathize. But hey, let's smile, right? And let's treat them with the respect they deserve, and we don't need to share our problems with them, right?
For sure.
Right. And so that way, they leave every interaction with us as best they can, saying, hey, those guys are okay. I want to talk to them the next time.
I love that. And that really speaks volumes to your brand, and again, how you handle your clients, and why you have the reputation you have, Rick. So I think everybody out there hearing this that knows Rick already understands that is truly a part of your brand and what you do get, and that's a complete truth. And that's a part of why I would like to consider you an official Real Estate Titan, Rick. So
Awesome.
Thanks again, man.
Thank you
I
very
really
much.
appreciate it.
Right?
So everybody out there, thanks so much for tuning in, for your time and attention. We're doing this every single Tuesday and Friday afternoon around 3 time frame. So hopefully we'll catch all you guys on the next one with the next Real Estate Titans. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
I think we're almost